Young black woman assists boy with asthma not knowing his dad is a powerful billionaire. The boy's breaths came in gasps, each one tighter than the last, his eyes wide with panic as he collapsed in the middle of the rush-hour crowd. Simone didn't hesitate. She dropped her coffee, sprinted over, and began life-saving treatment like she'd done it 100 times before. Simone Hayes didn't consider herself a hero. Heroes wore capes and changed the world. She wore worn-down sneakers and worked double shifts as a CNA at a rundown nursing home in Brooklyn. But in that moment, with a child's life crumpling in her arms on a grimy subway platform, she didn't think she moved. Hey, baby, you're okay, she said, kneeling fast, gently tilting the boy's face upward. His little chest was rising and falling in rapid, shallow bursts. Where's your inhaler? Do you have one? No answer. The boy's lips were beginning to turn a dusky purple. Call 911, she yelled to no one in particular, her voice sharp as a blade slicing through the blur of commuters. Some stopped. Most didn't. She dropped her bag, pulling out a mini emergency first aid kit. She always carried a habit her grandmother, a retired nurse, had drilled into her from childhood. Simone fished out a spacer and a spare albuterol inhaler she kept for her elderly patients. The boy was small, 6 or 7, maybe. She fitted the spacer over his mouth and triggered the inhaler. Breathe. Come on, baby. In and out. Just like this. In, out. The boy's chest slowed. Not much, but enough. Enough to believe he was coming back from wherever he'd been slipping. A hand touched her shoulder. Simone turned, eyes wild, adrenaline pumping. I called the ambulance, said a man. Older, salt and pepper beard. It's on its way. 2 minutes. She nodded, holding the boy until the paramedics arrived. Even as they lifted him onto the stretcher, his small hand clung to hers. Don't go, he whispered, voice hoarse. Please. She didn't. The EMTs let her ride in the ambulance, her badge and hospital ID enough to justify her presence. She held the boy's hand all the way to Lenox Hill. And that was how Simone's life changed, not with a warning or a sign from the sky, but with the sound of a child gasping for breath in the underbelly of New York City. The hospital room was quiet except for the rhythmic beeping of machines. The boy Elijah was sleeping peacefully now, his breathing even. Simone stood near the window, staring down at the city that had never once handed her a break. She'd stayed until the boy stabilized, signed her name on the visitor list, and ignored the looks from hospital staff when she admitted she wasn't family. A nurse entered with a tight smile. Are you Miss Hayes? Simone turned. Yeah. There's someone who'd like to speak with you. She furrowed her brows. Who? But the nurse was already gone. The door opened, and in walked a man who seemed to shrink the room. Tall, commanding, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit that whispered money and power. His face was sharp, dark eyes fixed on her with the kind of intensity that made Simone's throat dry. Miss Hayes, I presume? Yes, she said, straightening instinctively. Is everything okay? I'm Elijah's father. She blinked. Oh, he's a sweet kid. He's going to be all right. I know, the man replied. Because of you. He extended a hand. She hesitated, then shook it. Jonas Carrington. The name rang a faint bell, but she couldn't place it. I wanted to thank you, he said. Personally. No need, Simone replied, her voice gentle but firm. I just did what anyone would do. He raised an eyebrow. You really believe that? Simone held his gaze. I'd like to. Jonas studied her. Your ID says you're a nursing assistant. Certified nursing assistant, she corrected. Where? Bedford Hills Senior Care. He nodded slowly, taking that in. Underpaid, overworked, and still carrying emergency supplies in your purse. That's not common. She shifted uncomfortably. Look, Mr. Carrington, I don't need recognition. I'm just glad Elijah is okay. A small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. And that's exactly why you do deserve recognition. He took out a card and placed it on the nightstand. My office. Midtown. If you ever need anything, a job, a favor, a recommendation, come find me. I appreciate it, she said, not touching the card. Jonas gave her one last look, then turned and left. The door clicked shut behind him. Simone exhaled, her mind spinning. She didn't know yet that Jonas Carrington wasn't just rich, he was one of the most powerful private equity CEOs in Manhattan, with stakes in industries from healthcare to technology to aerospace. She didn't know her face had already been flagged by his security team and background checked, or that her moment of kindness was about to drag her into a world where people like her were only seen and almost never heard. Later that night, Simone returned home to her one-bedroom apartment in Flatbush, exhausted. She dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and flopped onto the couch, still thinking about Elijah. He'd looked at her like she was magic. She closed her eyes and smiled. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. A text this time. Thank you for saving my son. We are not done yet. JC. Simone stared at the screen. What does that even mean? The next morning, a black SUV pulled up in front of the nursing home just as Simone's shift was ending. A driver stepped out. Ms. Hayes. She hesitated. Yes. I've been asked to bring you to the Carrington estate. Mr. Carrington would like a word. Her supervisor peeked through the glass doors, watching curiously. Simone felt like every cell in her body said no, but something deeper, something stubborn, something hers said yes. She nodded and got into the car. The gates they pulled up to were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Stone columns, towering ironwork, and security like a fortress. The Carrington estate wasn't a house, it was a kingdom. As the SUV rolled up the winding drive, Simone's throat tightened. What did she just walk into? The Carrington estate didn't look like it belonged in New York or even in this century. The mansion stretched wide and low like it had nothing to prove. Cream-colored stone, slate roofs, ivy crawling like veins up the pillars. It was quiet here, so far removed from Brooklyn's noise that Simone wondered if she'd crossed into a different world entirely. She followed the driver up the steps and through heavy mahogany doors. Inside, everything smelled faintly of polish and wealth. The ceilings were impossibly high. Light streamed through windows taller than she was. Oil paintings, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, things she'd only seen in museums or TV dramas. Right this way, the driver said, leading her into a sunlit sitting room. Jonas Carrington was waiting, dressed more casually than before, still expensive, but less armor. A pale blue shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, no tie. He stood near a grand piano, hands clasped behind his back. Ms. Hayes, he said, turning. Mr. Carrington. I'm glad you came. Simone didn't sit until he gestured to the couch. Even then, she perched on the edge like she might need to spring up and bolt at any second. Coffee? Tea, he offered. I'm good. Jonas sat across from her. I wanted you to meet someone. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Elijah, Jonas called. The boy came barreling in brighter, stronger than she'd seen him before. His little sneakers squeaked on the floor. Simone, he cried. He ran to her and hugged her tight. She blinked in surprise and wrapped her arms around him. Hey, buddy. I told Daddy I wanted to see you again, Elijah said. I drew you a picture. He pulled it from behind his back, a crayon drawing of her kneeling with a superhero cape, standing over a tiny version of him smiling. Simone's throat caught. That's beautiful, Elijah. Thank you. Jonas smiled at the scene. He hasn't stopped talking about you. She ran her fingers over the paper. He's a brave kid. And you, Jonas said softly, are extraordinary. Simone looked up, wariness back in her eyes. Why am I here, Mr. Carrington? Really? He leaned back. Because I owe you. But more than that, I see something in you. Something rare. She crossed her arms. You don't know me. Not yet. But I'd like to. Silence stretched. Elijah was now sitting beside her, playing with a tiny Spider-Man figurine. Let me be blunt, Jonas continued. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering opportunity. Simone narrowed her eyes. What kind? I run several healthcare ventures. One of them is Carrington Recovery Center's physical rehab, long-term care, end-of-life support. We're expanding, and we need someone with heart, with fire, with grit. You think I'm that person? I know you are. Simone scoffed softly. You say that like this is a fairy tale. Poor girl from Brooklyn, rescued from obscurity by a billionaire. Jonas's expression hardened slightly. No, I'm offering you a chance to build something that helps people. Something you already do, but with resources. She hesitated. What would it mean? I'd start you as a patient advocate. Full training, fast track to management. Health benefits. 401k. Real money. Real power to change lives. Why me? He didn't flinch. Because my son trusts you. Because I watched you in that subway station. And because people like you don't just fall out of the sky. Simone stared down at the picture Elijah had drawn. Her fingers traced the cape again. She had spent years holding hands while patients died, wiping tears, changing sheets, fighting invisible battles against an unkind system. No one had ever noticed. Not like this. And yet, I need to think about it, she said finally. Of course, Jonas replied. I won't be a puppet. I wouldn't insult you by asking. She stood, adjusting her coat. Thank you for the offer. Elijah hugged her again before she left. Promise you'll come back? Simone smiled. I'll try. Days passed. Simone went back to her shift at Bedford Hills. Nothing had changed, at least, not on the surface. The peeling linoleum, the short-staffed floor, the same stale vending machine food. But inside her, everything buzzed differently. She kept catching herself staring at the business card Jonas gave her, still tucked in her bag. Her co-workers noticed too. Girl, you're glowing, said Lisa, the night nurse. What's up? Simone shook her head. Nothing. Just tired. Liar. You look like you got a secret. She did. A big one. A few days later, Jonas sent another car. This time, Simone didn't resist. She spent the afternoon at Carrington Recovery's flagship facility, all natural light, plants, therapy dogs, and wellness. It looked nothing like Bedford Hills. She toured with a regional director named Priya, who walked her through every department. By the end of it, Simone's head spun with the possibilities, and her gut twisted with guilt. Was she betraying her roots? She called her grandmother that night. Grams, if you had a chance to I don't know jump levels, skip the line, would you? Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. Depends what you're giving up to do it. I'd be helping more people. Helping different people. Don't confuse that with more. Simone sighed. I don't want to lose who I am. Then don't, her grandmother said. Wherever you go, take you with you. Simone accepted the job 2 days later. Her first day felt like stepping into someone else's life. Tailored slacks instead of scrubs. A sleek badge that read, Simone Hayes Patient Advocate. A sunlit office with a view of the East River. She threw herself into it. Sat in on meetings. Met with families. Fought for patients who didn't know how to ask for better care. Her instincts from Bedford Hills served her well. And Jonas noticed. He invited her to dinners, small functions, strategy sessions. He didn't flirt. He respected her space. But there was something charged between them, a recognition, maybe, that they were both survivors, just from opposite ends of the world. Still, the whispers came. She's a charity case, someone muttered in the elevator. I heard she saved his kid. That's the only reason she's here. She won't last. Simone kept her chin up. Let them talk. Until one day, she walked into a meeting with Jonas and a panel of investors and blew them all away with a pitch to convert one of their underperforming centers into a hospice home for low-income families. Jonas looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. She's not going anywhere, he said after the meeting. Get used to it. But success came with a cost. One evening, Simone left the office to find Elijah waiting in the hallway, holding a small duffel bag. Hey, sweetheart, she said. What's going on? My dad's in a meeting, Elijah said. He said to wait for him, but I wanted to see you. She knelt. You okay? He nodded. I just miss you. That night, she sat in Jonas's penthouse, reading Elijah a bedtime story. When the boy fell asleep curled against her side, Jonas stood in the doorway watching. You've become part of his world, he said quietly. Simone looked up. I don't want to overstep. You haven't. He walked over and stood beside her. But I need to tell you something. Her heart pounded. There's a merger coming, he said. Big one. Could reshape how we do healthcare. And it's going to get ugly. She blinked. Why are you telling me? Because you're in it now. She looked down at Elijah. What happens if I stay? Jonas met her eyes. You change everything. Simone didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to reconcile the two lives she now straddled. One foot was still in Brooklyn, in the cracked walls of Bedford Hills, in her grandmother's wisdom, in the grit that made her who she was. The other? It stood on marble floors, behind boardroom glass, in conversations about takeovers and influence and outcomes that didn't always include people. Jonas had said the merger would be messy. That was an understatement. By Monday, the storm had arrived. The Carrington Health Group was set to absorb one of the largest private elder care chains in the Northeast, Fairfield Wellness. On paper, it made sense. Fairfield had reach, Carrington had money and vision. But the truth, which Simone discovered in the first confidential strategy session she was ever invited to, was darker. Fairfield had a reputation, one they'd spent millions burying. Unsafe staffing ratios. Overuse of antipsychotics in dementia patients. Elder neglect. I've reviewed the reports, Simone said, pointing to a red folder in her hands. There are multiple wrongful death suits tied to their Westchester and Rochester facilities alone. We can't ignore that. The men around the table shifted. Jonas was quiet, watching her. One of the executives leaned forward. We're not ignoring it. We're absorbing it. Then fixing it. With what? PR. With governance and policy change, Ms. Hayes, he said, voice stiff. She held his gaze. Then say that. And mean it. Don't bury it in spin. Another suit chuckled under his breath. She's got teeth. Jonas raised a hand and silenced the room. She has a point. We can't just change the branding and pretend the past never happened. Simone spoke again. If you want community buy-in, you need transparency. Tell people what Fairfield was. Then tell them what it's going to become under us. Name it. Own it. There was a pause. Then Jonas nodded. Make that part of the launch campaign. It was a victory, but a small one. Because later that night, Priya pulled Simone aside. Just so you know, she said carefully, not everyone in that room thinks you earned your place there. Simone didn't flinch. That's fine. I didn't come to be liked. I know. That's why you're dangerous. By mid-March, the merger was public. Headlines praised Carrington for innovation, for disruption, for vision. Jonas was being hailed as a modern titan of healthcare reform. But inside the company, fractures were deepening. Budgets were tightening. Whole departments were being streamlined. People were losing jobs. Simone pushed back where she could, advocated for the patients who would suffer the most, drafted appeals, called meetings. Some days she succeeded. Others, she felt like she was trying to stop a tsunami with a paper cup. One night, after an especially brutal meeting, she found herself sitting alone on a bench in the Carrington Gardens, her hands shaking. You okay? Jonas stood nearby, his tie loosened, eyes shadowed. She didn't answer at first. I keep trying to fix things, she said finally. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to carry the whole system. You're not, he said. And you shouldn't try. She looked at him. Then who will? Jonas sat beside her. You do what you can. Change what you can. You've already changed me. That surprised her. How? I used to think the system was all numbers. Efficiencies. Growth. But then you walked into my life, and I saw something else. Humanity. Conviction. She shook her head. That's not enough. It's a start. A long pause. I didn't expect this, he said quietly. What? You? To matter this much. Her heart did a small, traitorous twist. I didn't expect it either. For a moment, the air between them held something unspoken, something dangerous and real. But before it could become more, Jonas stood. Come back inside when you're ready. And just like that, the moment passed. The next morning, Simone received an anonymous envelope at her desk. Inside, documents, financial reports, whistleblower testimony, internal emails. She read with mounting horror. Fairfield wasn't just neglectful. They had actively covered up multiple preventable deaths to keep their Medicaid reimbursement stream intact. In one case, a woman died from sepsis after sitting in her own waste for 3 days. Her records were doctored. Her family was paid to stay silent. Simone's stomach turned. Whoever had sent the file wanted her to act. But doing so could cost her everything. Her job, her credibility, her connection to Elijah, to Jonas. Still, she couldn't look away. That night, she sat on her couch in Brooklyn with the file spread out in front of her. Her grandmother sat in the armchair, reading every word beside her. They'll try to silence you, Grams said. Are you ready for that? No. But you're going to do it anyway. Simone nodded. Then go to the press. She didn't go to the press. Not first. She went to Jonas. She stood in his office, hands trembling, holding the documents. Did you know? He looked up from his desk. About what? She dropped the folder in front of him. He opened it. Read for several long minutes. His jaw tightened. A vein pulsed at his temple. I didn't know this, he said. Not like this. But you suspected something. I suspected sloppiness. Not criminality. She stared at him. So what are you going to do? He closed the file. I need time. You don't have time, she said. You're about to sign final contracts. His voice was cold now. If this goes public before we take control, Fairfield walks away. The merger dies. Good. Elijah's future, our future, is tied to this company. Don't throw it away on a crusade. Simone's heart broke a little in that moment. I thought you brought me in to change things. I did. Then let me. Silence. Then Jonas leaned forward. Give me 48 hours. I'll handle it. She didn't trust it, but she nodded. 46 hours later, a full investigative report leaked to the New York Times. Anonymous sources. Whistleblower testimony. Internal emails. Everything Simone had handed Jonas and more. Carrington stock dipped 6% overnight. Fairfield's CEO resigned. The merger was paused indefinitely. Jonas didn't deny the leak. He didn't confirm it either. But the next time Simone saw him, he looked different. Lighter. You did the right thing, he said. You mean we did? He nodded. Then added, it's going to cost me. I know. And I'd still do it again. There was something quiet in his eyes. Something soft. You scare me, Simone. Why? Because I've never needed anyone. Until now. She reached across the space between them. Took his hand. You don't need me. You just see me. And you don't look away. He didn't let go. Not that night. Not again. Simone and Jonas sat in the quiet of his private office, the city skyline burning gold through the tall windows behind them. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned, weighted with everything they'd fought through, everything they'd risked. So, she said at last, breaking the quiet. What happens now? Jonas exhaled slowly. Fallout. Lawsuits. Fairfield might sue us for breach. Investors will panic. But they'll respect the move. Eventually. Simone leaned back in her chair. And you? I lose some credibility in the acquisition world, he admitted. But I gain something better. She turned to him, skeptical. Which is? You. The words landed like a small, quiet thunder. She didn't smile. Didn't swoon. She just looked at him long and level. You're not used to needing people, she said. No. And I'm not used to trusting people like you. He nodded, accepting the truth of it. So where does that leave us? Simone looked out the window. In the middle of a storm. But standing. She stood, her decision already made before she'd come. I'm going to start something. A clinic. Community-based. Grassroots. For the people who never make it onto your radar. Jonas stood too, eyes flickering with emotion. I'll fund it. She shook her head. No. You'll try. But I need to do this on my own. If I don't, I'll always wonder whose vision I'm building, mine or yours. He didn't argue. He just stepped closer. Then let me help in other ways, he said softly. No strings. Just belief. Simone studied him, heart thudding. You really mean that? I've never meant anything more. She smiled. For real this time. And for the first time, she allowed herself to lean into him. Not because she needed rescuing, but because she'd chosen to be seen. To be held, just for a moment, before walking back into the fire. Simone's announcement came just a week later. Brooklyn Rising Health Collective, founded by Simone Hayes, RN. She stood behind a small podium at a press conference in Bed-Stuy. No polished PR team. No $1 million suit. Just her in a white blouse and gray slacks, speaking to a crowd of journalists and neighbors, advocates and skeptics. I came from here, she said, voice steady. I know what it feels like to sit for 6 hours in a waiting room and leave without answers. I've held too many hands as lives slipped away because we didn't have the resources, the respect, or the reach. That ends here. The room broke into applause. Behind the crowd, Jonas stood in the shadows, arms crossed, eyes never leaving her. And beside him, holding his hand tightly, was Elijah, beaming. Later, after the conference, Simone walked out into the sunlight to find them waiting. Elijah ran up first. You did amazing. She knelt to hug him, laughing. Thank you, superhero. Then Jonas stepped forward, offering nothing but a look. A question. I meant what I said, Simone told him. No strings. None, he said. But maybe. Partnership. In whatever form you'll allow. She didn't answer right away. But she didn't walk away either. Instead, she slipped her hand into his, not as an employee or a beneficiary, but as an equal. And they walked off together, Elijah skipping beside them, into a city that hadn't changed but was beginning to feel a little more possible. Because of one moment in a subway station. Because of one woman who refused to look away. Because the right fight is never clean, but it's always worth it. The first 6 months of running Brooklyn Rising Health Collective nearly broke Simone. Every day started before dawn and ended long after dark. She and her team, a ragtag group of nurses, retired doctors, interns, and local volunteers, operated out of a renovated community center. They had one exam room, second-hand equipment, and a budget so tight Simone sometimes skipped meals just to make the numbers stretch. But people came. Mothers with sick babies, elders without prescriptions, construction workers with untreated injuries. They came because they'd heard that Simone listened, that she looked you in the eye, that she didn't care if you had insurance or not. Jonas visited once a week, never lingering, always staying in the background. He kept his promise, no strings, just quiet support. He connected Simone to architects who helped her plan future expansions, introduced her to a legal team that offered pro bono work. Occasionally, his foundation sent anonymous donations, always routed through a third party, so her pride wouldn't stop her from accepting. But still, the pressure grew. One day in August, Simone returned to the clinic after a food run to find chaos in the waiting room. "What's going on?" she asked, setting down bags of takeout. A young volunteer, Carlos, looked panicked. "We got a call, Child Protective Services. Someone filed a complaint against us. Said we're treating minors without parental consent." Simone's blood went cold. "That's not true." "I know," Carlos said. "But they're sending someone to investigate." Simone nodded slowly. "Okay, let them come. We have our files. We've followed the law." But deep down, she knew what this was. Retaliation. She'd turned down a massive buyout offer just 2 weeks earlier. A private healthcare conglomerate had offered to absorb Brooklyn Rising, giving her a handsome payout, a new title, and promises of wider access. But she'd refused. "I didn't build this for profit," she told them. "I built it for dignity." Now they were playing dirty. That night, Simone sat in her office, lights dimmed, elbows on her desk. Her phone buzzed, a message from Jonas. "You okay?" She stared at the screen. "Barely." 10 seconds later, her phone rang. She picked it up. "You heard already?" she asked. "I heard," Jonas said. "Do you want me to handle it?" Simone was silent. "I'll make a call," he offered. "They'll back off." "No," she said softly. "Not yet. If I use you to scare them now, they'll always assume you're behind me. That this place isn't real unless it has your money holding it up." Jonas exhaled. "You're too proud. I'm trying to build something bigger than me. If people think it only stands because of you, it'll never last." He was quiet a moment. Then, "I respect that. Thanks. But if they come for you harder, I won't just watch." Simone closed her eyes. "I know. And that's enough." 2 weeks later, the CPS investigation quietly vanished. No explanation. No report filed. Simone never asked Jonas if he stepped in anyway. She just kept working. But the challenges weren't only external. Inside the clinic, tensions were rising. Funding gaps. Staff burnout. Simone herself had developed a stress-related ulcer, but refused to slow down. "You're not God," her lead nurse, Karen, told her one day after Simone collapsed while bandaging a child's broken arm. "I'm fine," Simone insisted, weakly brushing off help. "No, you're not. You're running yourself into the ground." Simone sat down hard on the exam table. If you stop," Karen cut in, "we all survive. This place doesn't work if you die at the center of it." That hit her. And that night, after everyone left, Simone stayed behind and stared at the clinic's mission statement, a simple hand-painted quote on the wall. "Dignity in every heartbeat. Care without condition." She realized something. She was so afraid of losing the dream, she'd forgotten to share it. The next morning, she called a staff meeting. "Starting this week," she told them, "we're restructuring. No more me at the center of everything. We build this together." She outlined a new leadership council, 5 members from different teams, rotating leadership responsibilities. She stepped back from day-to-day oversight and focused instead on long-term strategy, outreach, and training. It wasn't easy. Letting go never is. But it worked. Within a month, morale was higher. Patients were still flooding in, but they moved through the system smoother. More efficiently. More respectfully. Simone smiled more. Ate more. Slept more. And one Friday night, after locking up early, she found herself standing at the curb outside the clinic just as Jonas pulled up. "Can I take you somewhere?" he asked through the rolled-down window. She hesitated, then nodded. He took her to the Brooklyn Promenade. They walked in silence for a long while. The city stretched out before them like a promise. "I watched you give up everything," Jonas said quietly. "Comfort. Safety. Me." Simone looked at him. You never asked me to choose. No, but you did anyway. And now, she asked. He turned to face her fully. Now I'm not asking you to give up anything. I'm just asking you to let me in. Whatever that looks like. Simone's throat tightened. You still scare me, she whispered. Good, he said. That means we're real. They stood there, side by side, no declarations, no grand plans. Just two people scarred, steady, and finally ready to walk forward. Together. But peace doesn't last forever. A storm was brewing. And this time, it would test everything Simone had built and everyone she loved. It started with a letter. Plain envelope. No return address. Just the clinic's name scrawled on the front. Brooklyn Rising Health Collective. Simone tore it open in the staff lounge, coffee in one hand, exhaustion thick in her eyes. She read the first paragraph and froze. The city health department has received multiple allegations of non-compliance and safety violations at your clinic. A full audit will commence immediately. You are advised to suspend non-essential operations until further notice. She dropped the letter. Karen picked it up and scanned it. They're shutting us down? No, Simone said quietly. Not yet, but they're trying to bleed us out. Within days, inspectors arrived. Clipboards, flashlights, cold expressions. They poked through cabinets, rifled through locked drawers, questioned interns with intensity that bordered on cruelty. One inspector muttered, You're just a bunch of volunteers playing hospital. Simone's voice cut across the room. We've treated over 5,000 patients in under a year, without billing a single one into bankruptcy. Don't you ever diminish what we do here. But the damage was done. Word spread fast. News blogs picked up the story, twisting the facts, unregulated clinic under investigation. Donations slowed. A major sponsor backed out. Patients began to ask, Is it safe to keep coming here? Simone stayed calm. Outwardly. Inwardly, she was unraveling. Jonas came by one night and found her asleep at her desk, head resting on a stack of intake forms. He didn't wake her, just sat beside her until she stirred. You should have called me, he said gently. I can't keep leaning on you every time the sky falls. He gave her a tired smile. That's not weakness, Simone. That's life. She closed her eyes. I don't want them to say I only made it because of you. They'll say it anyway, he replied. Because the world hates a black woman winning without permission. Let them talk. A week later, the audit results came in. 37 minor violations. 3 major ones. The major ones were dubious at best, missing expiration labels, an outdated sharps container, an air quality reading just above recommended levels. All fixable. But the city ordered a temporary suspension of clinical services pending review. It was a death sentence. Simone gathered her staff in the community hall, hearts heavy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, she told them. This is deliberate. We're being punished. But we're not closing. Carlos raised his hand. We literally have to stop seeing patients. We'll pivot, Simone said. Health education, outreach, mental health support. We'll send our nurses out into the neighborhoods. If they won't let us serve here, we'll go to the people. Like mobile units? Karen asked. Exactly. Pop-ups. Street corners, churches, schoolyards. We adjust. The room buzzed with energy again. And for 2 weeks, they pulled it off. Makeshift checkups under basketball hoops. Blood pressure clinics outside bodegas. Health packets delivered door to door. The spirit was back. Until the next blow hit. This one came from inside. It was Thursday morning when Karen pulled Simone aside, face tight. You're going to want to sit for this, she said. Simone frowned. What's wrong? It's Jamal. Jamal was their operations assistant. He'd been with them since month 2. Reliable, quiet, loyal, or so they thought. Karen handed Simone a flash drive. He's been leaking internal documents to a health lobbying group. Emails, budgets, patient stats. Simone stared. Why? Karen sighed. Money maybe. Or pressure. Or both. The group he sent them to? They're the same people who tried to buy us out. Simone swallowed her fury. We trusted him. I know. Do we report him? Karen shook her head. If we go public, it turns into a scandal. They'll use it to say we're unstable. Disorganized. Simone paced. Thought. Breathed. No. We confront him. Privately. That afternoon, she sat down with Jamal in her office. He looked cornered the moment he walked in. I'm not here to scream, Simone said. But I need you to be honest with me. Jamal crumbled. He admitted everything. They said if I gave them info, they'd help keep us open, that they'd stop the audits. I didn't think they'd. You gave them our patients' trust, Simone said softly. And that's something I can't excuse. Tears welled in his eyes. I'm so sorry. She nodded, emotions tight. I believe you. But you can't stay here. He left quietly. No drama. Just shame. Simone stood in the doorway long after he was gone, watching the street, wondering how much more she could take. Then came the outbreak. It started with one child, a 5-year-old girl named Destiny, who collapsed during an outreach event in Brownsville. Fever, seizures, blue lips. They rushed her to the nearest ER, but within 24 hours, 6 more kids were hospitalized. A rare viral strain, airborne, aggressive, spreading fast. And it hit the underserved neighborhoods first, the places without access, without clinics, without trust. Simone's phone rang nonstop. We don't know who to call. We're scared. They won't listen to us at the hospital. Her clinic was still shut down, but the people were turning to her anyway. She called Jonas. I need help, she said without preamble. Tell me what to do, he said. She laid it out. Emergency mobile clinics, protective gear, rapid testing, contact tracing teams. He didn't hesitate. Done. I'll get you everything. Under your name. No press. That night, they launched a crisis response effort the city hadn't seen since the pandemic. Volunteers flooded in. Medical students. Retired nurses. Even street medics from protest days. Simone coordinated them all like a general in battle. Jonas watched her work fierce, exhausted, luminous. You're doing what the government should have done, he told her one morning. I'm doing what we were all supposed to do, she replied. In 10 days, the outbreak slowed. In 2 weeks, it was under control. The city took credit, of course, but the people knew the truth. By the end of the month, the city health department quietly reinstated Brooklyn Rising's full license. No apologies. No fanfare. Just an email. Simone read it, closed her laptop, and walked outside into the sunlight. Across the street, a little boy waved at her. His mother mouthed, "Thank you." And Simone finally let herself breathe. But it wasn't victory. Not really. Just survival. She looked toward the sky and whispered, "We're not done yet." Not by a long shot.